and following rules that 12-year-olds came up with in 1973.
Okay.
I'm a grown-ass man.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? When you a kid, do your thing. But once you a grown-ass man and you still following rules that 12-year-olds came up with in the 80s, I just feel like that niggas just gotta do better, bro. You can always be where you from, claim where you from, and have love for where you from, but I just feel like you just pressing lines at 50. I just feel like niggas need to do better with their lives.
Almighty Suspect said that he do not agree with grown men following rules that was created in the 80s by 12-year-olds. Now, I got some questions. Now, I also put a picture up because I received a comment, and the comment was pretty much saying some of the same stuff that Suspect was saying. This ain't the first time I have heard this being said, but I do not agree with that, right? Because I really need somebody to give me the answer to these questions that I'm asking. In the comments, give me these answers. What rules did these so-called, I'm going to call them the founders, right? We're going to be speaking about like the founders of Crips and Bloods because that's what Suspect was really speaking on. But what rules did those founders create that was not already installed into them or they were not influenced by? What rules? Like, because all these rules, that's the core of the rules, is the rules that you can find in a household or in the Bible, military, law enforcement, or in the gangsters. You know, I hate that people skip and start talking about some 1980s and not the 20s and all that stuff, and that don't really break it down fully, because it was a gangster lifestyle before it was a gangbang lifestyle as far as how we view it. You know what I mean? Like the Crippin' and Blood and GD and all that, right? But that element existed long before the Crips and the Bloods. And these rules like no snitching on your homies, no leaving your homies behind, one fight, we all fight, no stealing from your homies. All of these type of rules is enforced in the military, in the gangster world, in your household, even in the Bible. Don't steal from thy neighbor. All these things. So I don't understand when suspects say rules that was created by 12-year-olds. I don't get it. You know? And I want to say this, like, just because something come from a 12-year-old, that don't mean it can't be right. You know, it's this kid, and I'm going to get back to the gang stuff, but I'm going to just say this real fast because this is something that it go hand in hand with this. Him pretty much acting like a kid can never make a choice that can lead to being a good choice for the future. Kids can make bad choices. They can make good choices. That's just human. You know, grown-ups make good choices and they also make wrong choices. Or right choices and wrong choices, right? Now, with the Palisades fires, it was this kid, teenager. He came up with this concept. He's working on it. It's in process. Within the last 2 months, I definitely saw him on the news. He's out in the fields, in the like where them fires and stuff be taking place. And not shout out like in a good way, but you know, I send some strength and send some heart, my heart out to those who was affected by those fires. But this kid is coming up with this concept to where it's going to detect fires early on in those dry environments so they can be able to contain it faster before it just spreads so wild.
New technology created by a teenager in Orange County could soon help fight wildfires. It's a sensor that can detect a fire when it's a little more than a spark, allowing firefighters to mobilize quickly and stop the fire before it gets out of control. Ryan Honoré was inspired to create this technology after the Camp Fire in Northern California. And in the 5 years since, he's developed a network of sensors that use AI to analyze heat and smoke data. The sensors then alert firefighters with exact coordinates, buying firefighters precious time to respond.
with greater than 1,200 feet of line of sight and around 300 feet of non-line of sight, we're able to detect a fire that's smaller than 1 foot.
Ryan has been working on his design since 5th grade and has won several awards. But this coming Monday will be his first real world test. The Sensory AI will be installed in Irvine.
Now, we don't know if somebody else is working on this type of event. Not event, but invention. Whatever. Y'all get what I'm trying to say, right? But on the news, they just hiding like this kid, this young boy. This is his idea. This is gonna help people. I truly believe it's gonna help people. So we're gonna sit here and act like it's gonna be wrong just because he's not an adult coming up with this idea. Nah, I don't agree with that. Off of that, back to the gang culture stuff. And speaking about the founders and all that stuff that Suspect said. It's a video with Kev Mack and OG Cutes. Shout out to them. I feel like if you want to be a person like Suspect and speak to the gang culture in the public, you should go watch that, so that way you could kind of get a little bit more understanding on how things was going on in the beginning, right? Now, OG Cutes stated that they had a treasury. He said they had a sergeant of arms. I mean, they just really had structure, right? And if you fast forward that, you can tell how what Crippin' and Blood have became, or let's just say Crippin', because they was talking about the whole video was basing upon the division, the split up of the West Side Crips. When they speak on all that, when OG Cubes was speaking on some of that, even Kev Mack was kind of like took at like wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause it has became something so moved away from the original vision from the founders to where certain people cannot fathom, like, you know, or accept the fact of these certain brilliant ideas was actually taking place. I mean, these people were smart. Time have changed. You know, a long time ago, you probably could go to war. You go to war at 12, 14 and all that stuff, and people didn't look at it no type of way. You look at it now, we all look at it crazy. Like, you know what I mean? 12-year-old, 14-year-old signed up to just go straight to a gun battle in combat. Seems strange. You know what I mean? But when you look at it like what Larry Hoover or what Jeff Ford and these people was standing for and pushing lines for, and they structuring, that element has been removed. So when a person say like we are still following these rules that was created by these 12-year-olds, I need to know what rules did they create that was never created, that they weren't influenced by, that wasn't installed in them, and I want to know, like, it's just the whole concept. Back to what I was saying with the division of the West Side Crips. OG Cutes was on there explaining how him and others were not in agreement to that. So the fact that West Side Crip don't exist, that shows how far we have driven from operating on the same viewing point of the founders. When we talk about these, when we are no longer just Compton Crip, West Side Crip, East Side Crip, we have removed ourselves from that original viewing point. I remember the dude from Bebop. He was responding to Kev Mack and them. And he might have been responding to some Bloods or whoever. I can't remember because I ain't watched the clip recently. But he said something about, like, what era are we speaking to? You know, he was saying something like, are we talking about the era of the Bloods? Or are we talking about the era of the anti-Crips? Because he was saying the era of like the founding of the Bloods is different than the the spark up of the era of the anti-Crips, or the C can, the B can and all that, the P can. That is all have transpired into something different. When we talk about in this day and time where a lot of Crips first, their main enemy is a Crip, and a lot of Damu's main enemy is a Damu, we are removed from the foundation viewing point. The fact that that is actually occurring. When societies in these neighborhoods and everything is more tore down, as opposed of being patrolled or, protected, we can't even compare that no more. A lot of people talk that tough stuff like they just so anti the Crips and Bloods, but y'all better know this. If it wasn't no Crips and Bloods in Los Angeles or anywhere else, a lot of y'all would have been getting knocks on your doors, and y'all would have had problems with the KKKs and the skinheads and things of that nature. These are just facts. Y'all think y'all wouldn't have been bullied? That element kept white people away from having to come harass and attack and bring down another black person. And if it wasn't just because it was like we was not gonna go for it, but they also removed themselves because, hey, let them do what they do. They doing the job for us. We don't gotta do it no more. That's another case. So when people say, like, we just gotta know this history, man. Like, and really talk and act like, and know what's going on when you get on here and speak. Now, I would never get on here and try to advocate like I'm trying to tell people that it's nothing but a good lifestyle to be a part of. I would never say that. I'm just saying that you cannot compare what something was set out to be with what it actually became. We can't sit here and say that we still running in the same mind frame as the 12-year-olds when that's not true. Them people have more unity on their mind. We got more division on our mind. When you had a person talking about they was a Crip, now a person talking about he a gangster Crip, and I'm a neighborhood Crip, and I'm this Crip, and when all this stuff said and done, it's all divided. When you talking about you got Crips talking about they got love for the Don Moves and we aligning ourselves with them, but we only go against these other Crips, that is something that the founders would have never done. So I don't respect that. Almighty Suspect is a failed attempted gangbanger. He attempted to try to be a part of the lifestyle and he failed at it. So he's going to always paint the narrative like he made the right choice for not being from a gang, and instead of actually being honest and saying, you know what, I was attracted to that lifestyle. I took a like to it, but I failed at it through my trials and tribulations. Because we can't talk about nobody acting like they street and you want to talk about, Cripping in blood or gang banging is just stupid. Because then what ain't stupid in the streets if that's the case? Like Suspect, you ain't a gangbanger. You got on the podcast and you said that you got a gun case. But a while ago, you were said, somebody on the podcast told you, why don't you get your legal gun case, get you a legal gun since you didn't have no felon, you ain't a gangbanger. You said, I'm all right. I keep getting DA rejects, so I'ma just stick with that. That's dumb. If you act like you gonna participate in any level of pimping in this day and time, that can be considered as stupidity. Because that's no longer considered as like pimping and pandering. That is considered as human trafficking. So, and it's a lot of people who do not agree with that at all. Do not respect that at all. Some people don't. Some people understand that culture. Some people don't. So when people get to acting like, just want to act like that's something stupid, a lot of things is stupid that people do in life, man. People get drunk and get behind the wheel. People getting high out their mind and getting behind the wheel. People is actually getting intoxicated in the public settings, knowing that their mind is going to be altered no matter how much you think your tolerance is strong enough. Just common sense. So that's how I view the situation. I hope I was able to give y'all some type of knowledge and give y'all some type of different viewing point on that. Like I said, what rules did those founders start that was never created before? And how can you compare the same when the lifestyle of the gangbanging have totally switched? So I don't think it's anybody running around here operating on the same type of thinking as those, so to speak, kids. And also, let's talk about the set tripping. Let's talk about like Raider games. Let's talk about sports events. Like people be dying. Like people be getting stabbed and people be going to jail. All over some teams that they rooting for. And they just somewhere at a event with a jersey on, and another person got a different jersey on, and people end up going to a hospital. Let's talk about that going on, man. If we gonna sit here and act like the human nature is not designed like the way it goes, like we get into it over nothing that makes sense. Majority of the altercations, human against human, it will not make sense if you really break it down, because it all can be prevented. All of the altercations, when you watch these dudes on No Jumper, it can easily be prevented. Look at Suspect. You get put in a twist, some dude say you got a knife, you saying some disrespectful terms all on the thing, kind of lost your job for a brief moment. All that stuff probably played a part on you, getting booked in when you went to court. All of that. But we all know that could have been prevented because y'all didn't have to keep yelling at each other and going back and forth. It take two to tango. But that made sense to y'all. So that's what we gotta know, man. It's like, it's still gonna always be something for people to stand for. That's all it's about. It's just you stand for what you stand for and other people stand for what they stand for. Look at the history with the veterans in the military and the whole concept of the biker MCs. They spirit is they spirit, so they still need a fight and they still need something to stand for, and they chose to be a part of these MCs. And what they became later on down the line is a whole nother conversation. But why they started to do what they chose to do, it's for some of the same reasons. So people also need to start studying the human nature and how the humans is like how human just works regardless before you start trying to put labels on things. It's gonna always be conflict. It's gonna always be battles, and it's gonna always be rules. It's just gonna be wrapped in something different.